Try closing your eyes for a second and thinking back to the very first time you watched The Sound of Music. Maybe you were 7 or 8, curled up in your pajamas, the dog snoring at your feet, mom next to you humming along to Do Re Mi. Or maybe it came later, a rainy afternoon. Your own kids clambering all over the living room, everyone belting out 16 going on 17, even if the storm outside rattled the windows. And if you know this movie by heart at this point, if the whole thing runs in your mind like an old home movie, well, don't worry, you're in good company. I know every line too. The Sound of Music has this odd power to transport you, no matter how many times you've seen it. There's something deep in those opening notes, "The hills are alive," that tugs you right into a strange mix of comfort and pure joy. Somehow, it strips off all the static in your life, just for a little while. Suddenly, you feel like a kid again, wrapped in warmth and possibility, even if you're sitting on an ancient couch with a takeout coffee cooling in your hand. That's the heart of the movie, this glow that seeps into every frame. It pours out kindness, cheer, and a touch of mischief, and it does all that even when regular life is just plain overwhelming. Everything outside your front door might feel loud and chaotic, but The Sound of Music is tireless, always ready to gather you into its arms and steady you for an hour or two. Like a friend who never judges, like the softest, most reassuring hug, just when you need it. But here's the part most people don't realize. Underneath all that sunshine and song, behind every twirling dance and every impossibly green mountain, there's a whole wild world of behind-the-scenes stories. I'm talking about the messy, hilarious, totally human chaos you never see in the final cut. Glitches, stumbles, Hollywood weirdness, and moments so strange they sound almost made up. Once you hear these little secrets, you'll never see the movie the same way again. And honestly, it might make you love it even more, because you get to peek behind the curtain to see the grit that makes the magic possible. So why not settle in? Let's dive into the history, the hiccups, and the happy accidents that built this classic. I promise, by the end, you'll love The Sound of Music in a whole new way. Let's start right at the beginning, because really, is there any other place? Think about that opening shot. Julie Andrews, arms stretched out, spinning in a blur of blue and white, right at the top of the world. It's pure movie memory, so light, so flawless, you almost expect her to fly. But the truth? It was mayhem. First off, it was cold. Not that fairy tale, pinch your nose kind of cold, but miserable. Drizzle, gray skies, mud everywhere, and a kind of damp that seeps into your shoes and stays all day. And then there was the helicopter. The only way they could film that legendary shot was by swinging a massive chopper around Julie again and again, close enough to make your teeth rattle. If you've never been near a helicopter, here's what happens. When it gets close, the wind is ridiculous. We're not talking a gentle breeze. It's more like a hurricane blast. So there's Julie Andrews, calm, graceful Maria on camera, barely hanging onto her hat, getting slammed to the earth by engines so powerful they practically pinned her to the grass. No joke, with every pass, the downwash flattened her. Picture it, she'd pop up, smooth her dress, and then get knocked flat again by the very next swoop. She's talked about it for years after, how the director and crew were bundled up, probably sipping something hot, while she was out there getting buffeted by wind and rain, barely able to keep her balance. At first, she tried to laugh it off, but after a dozen times of being knocked flat, even Julie got frustrated. Imagine it, Maria von Trapp, gritting her teeth, mentally saying, "Not this time." And then wham, the helicopter's back and she's face down in the mud all over again. It's wild, isn't it? One of cinema's brightest, most effortless moments was actually a mess of helicopter blasts, freezing hands, and mud-stained skirts. But here's the kicker. It worked. That scene is still one of the most iconic in film. Nobody watching can guess all the chaos that went into it. And that's what makes it magic. I think there's something kinda universal in that too. We all have those moments, the times when you promise yourself you're not going to get knocked down again. You square your shoulders, brace yourself for the next hit, but somehow, life always has a surprise or two. Still, you get up, again and again. Maybe you laugh about it later. Maybe, one day, all that struggle turns into something unforgettable. And really, that was just the opening. There are so many more stories and twists beneath the surface of this movie, and Julie Andrews' path to Maria von Trapp is its own tale, with some unexpected chapters. There's Walt Disney, big studio plans, and a certain magical nanny with an umbrella tangled up in the mix. Stick around, because things are about to get even more interesting. Let me tell you how it all really played out. Richard Rodgers, you know, from Rodgers and Hammerstein, the duo behind The Sound of Music, Oklahoma, and all those musicals you maybe catch yourself singing in the shower, he knew Julie Andrews was made for this. The very first time he saw her audition in 1956, that was it. He just knew. He saw Maria right there on that stage and never wavered, not for a second. But convincing Hollywood? That's a whole different animal. The executives at 20th Century Fox just didn't see it at first. Sure, they admitted Julie could sing, and she was great in theater, but was she really movie star material? They wanted a name that already filled seats, a sure thing. So they hesitated, delayed. They circled and circled around her, second-guessing and doubting. And then Walt Disney showed up, like some twist in the third act. Yes, the Walt Disney in person. He had just finished working with Julie on this quirky new movie about a magical nanny, just a small part, as most folks saw it at the time. He decided to show the Fox higher-ups some early Mary Poppins footage. Turns out that was all it took. You could have heard a pin drop. Suddenly, everyone saw it. That mysterious thing, the spark, the magic, whatever you want to call it. Julie had it. The office went from skeptical to sold in an instant. They didn't care anymore that she got her start on stage. Now they wanted her so badly for Maria that you almost wonder if they'd ever really heard her sing before that day. She went from maybe to the heart and soul of The Sound of Music, just like that. The truth is, you can't picture anyone else standing on that green hillside, arms wide, letting the wind carry her voice. That's the real deal. Someone with enough grit to slog through rejection, a bit of luck, and, above all, someone powerful enough to make people believe in her. Watch The Sound of Music now, and you don't just see Maria. You see that whole journey, all that drive, every leap of faith that got Julie Andrews onto that mountain. Though, let's be real, even after all that magic, Fox still couldn't just say thank you and move on. Not a chance. They tried to get Julie to sign a 4-movie promise before giving her Maria, like she was a commodity on a negotiating table. She wasn't having it. In the end, they haggled down to 2 films. And after that, history got made. The Sound of Music was born. On the subject of Mary Poppins, Julie herself worried about being typecast. She'd just played the world's most famous nanny. Was Hollywood going to haunt her with caretaker parts forever? So before she even started filming The Sound of Music, she deliberately sought out a different kind of role. She said, and I love this, I hoped that would show I didn't only play nanny roles. Julie, I adore you, but you signed on as another nanny straight after Mary Poppins. That nanny image? It was going to hang around a bit longer, and honestly, we're sort of grateful it did. Now, let's talk about the kids, because that little troupe of Von Trapps brought buckets of chaos and handfuls of charm to the set, and behind the scenes, things got wild. Remember the rowboat scene? Maria and all those grinning kids out on the lake, all sweet and wholesome, until the boat tips and everyone winds up in the drink? Cute on camera, less cute if you're 5 years old and can't swim. Poor Kim Karath. The littlest Von Trapp, Gretel, was 5 and honestly terrified of water. The plan was simple. Boat tips, Julie dives straight in and immediately grabs little Kim. Except the boat flipped, and Julie went in the wrong direction. Kim went under. Real panic for a moment. She swallowed a bunch of water, but she was okay. Shaken, but fine. That alone would make for a memorable day. But the story doesn't end there. After being pulled free, Kym got sick and threw up lake water all over Heather Menzies Urich, who played Louisa. You couldn't write that, but it happened. Poor Heather. If that doesn't bond a cast, nothing does. And then there's Nicholas Hammond, who played Friedrich. Filming took 6 months, plenty of time for a teenage boy to do what teenage boys do, grow like a weed. Nicholas shot up 6 inches, from 5'3" to 5'9", and suddenly, the supposed younger brother outgrew his on-screen older sister. Early in the shoot, costuming gave him hidden lifts to keep him shorter. By the end, he was shuffling around in his socks, while the actress playing Liesel was sneaking onto a box just to keep the height order straight. Movie magic, folks. It's not all about CGI. Can't forget Charmian Carr either, Liesel herself. Remember that beautiful gazebo number, 16 going on 17. She was actually 21, not 16. But more than that, she went full method, slid right through a glass panel, and hurt her ankle. If you watch that scene and notice a hint of a limp, maybe some creative camera angles or some suspiciously heavy makeup around her leg, yup, that's all a cover-up. Because, cliché as it sounds, the show really does go on. The more you dig into it, the more you realize The Sound of Music is more than movie magic. It's real sweat, real nerves, a little bit of chaos, and a whole lot of stubborn belief. Every time you watch it, remember all those behind-the-scenes scrambles, because that's part of what makes it live on. I have to talk about Christopher Plummer, because honestly, what a character both on screen and off. He gave us Captain Von Trapp, the stern, dignified man, haunted by his own rules, who finds his way back to love, music, and his children. In the film, he's ridiculously handsome. He draws your eyes every time he's there, especially when he shares the screen with Julie Andrews. Their chemistry? Electric. He delivers a performance so layered, you feel all the stuff he's hiding behind that icy facade. But here's the wild part. Christopher Plummer loathed making this movie. I mean, really, truly hated it. He couldn't even call it The Sound of Music without making a joke. He called it The Sound of Mucus. He thought it was just impossibly sentimental, sticky with sweetness. He complained that finding a shred of real emotion inside all that goo was a job in itself. He was so bored and miserable shooting in Salzburg that he apparently ate and drank his feelings away, to the point where the costume department had to keep loosening his clothes to keep up with him. And let's not forget one of the best behind-the-scenes confessions. In the DVD commentary, Plummer straight up admitted that he was drunk during the big music festival scene. Drunk. In one of the most famous movies ever made, he's standing there, completely composed, passionately defiant, while well past sober. Now, when you rewatch that scene, knowing this, it's almost impossible not to smile. He's perfect. You'd never guess. He's standing tall, so controlled, while the whole future of his family hangs in the balance. That's real acting for you. Or maybe the scene itself just carries him along. Maybe it's both. Plummer and Andrews, though, managed something beautiful together. Take the gazebo scene. Come on, that's pure movie magic. Maria and the captain finally, after all that dancing around each other, admit they're in love. They share something good, a song so tender and hopeful, it makes you feel like maybe your life could have a sweeping orchestral score too. It's the kind of romance Hollywood rarely gets right. Except, in the middle of all this cinematic loveliness, the universe had other plans. The lighting equipment above their heads kept making these ridiculous, sputtering, borderline fart noises right at the most emotional moments. Plummer would fix his soulful gaze on Julie Andrews, begin his big, earnest speech, and then, from above, an undignified splutter. Andrews just lost it every single time, giggling through take after take. They couldn't get a usable shot. In the end, their director, Robert Wise, got so fed up he just switched the lights off and filmed them in silhouette. That's why that whole scene looks so dreamy, a spontaneous solution to equipment that wouldn't cooperate. Out of chaos, out of total frustration, they captured one of the truly iconic love scenes in cinema. It turns out, beauty and mayhem often go together. Now, let's turn down the volume on Hollywood fantasy for a second and peek at the real Von Trapp family story, because it's a whole different ballgame. For starters, there were 10 kids. 10, not 7. And Maria wasn't hired to look after all of them. She came specifically to tutor a single sick child. The real Captain Von Trapp, not the cold, rule-bound autocrat the film gives us. People said he was actually warm, friendly, full of humor. The whistle, the sternness, That's pure screenwriting. And Maria herself lived to see the film. She even appeared on the Julie Andrews Hour years later, where she basically gushed over Julie's performance. She did have one tiny complaint: the yodeling. According to her, it just wasn't up to scratch. No notes on anything else. Just that. Oh, and the escape across the mountains? That gripping final act, all tension and danger as they flee over the Alps into Switzerland? Total fiction. In reality, the Von Trapps hopped on a train to Italy. No thrilling mountain crossing, just a regular, everyday train ride. Funny enough, if they had tried hiking over those mountains, as the movie suggests, geography would have taken them straight into Germany, right near Hitler's mountain retreat. Good thing they bought those tickets. But here's something even more remarkable. The Sound of Music was more than just a hit movie, it was a lifeline. 20th Century Fox basically staked the studio's future on it after the wild money pit that was Cleopatra. It was a make-or-break gamble for everyone involved. Nobody knew if this big, sentimental musical about singing nuns and a stern father would capture the world's heart. Well, it didn't just succeed, it shattered records. It out-earned Gone with the Wind. It won 5 Oscars, including Best Picture. Adjusted for inflation, it's still up there. One of the highest-grossing movies ever made. The most successful movie musical of all time. And all that magic, it came from a film that behind the scenes was kind of a perfect storm of mayhem. The leading man openly mocked the production. Julie Andrews got knocked flat by helicopter downdrafts in those mountain scenes. Kids got hurt. One even broke her ankle in the gazebo. There was giggling, there was vomiting. The teenage actor playing Rolf shot up half a foot during production. This was not a set where everything ran smoothly. Honestly, that's what makes the story so wonderful. Great things are messy. They're hard, sometimes ridiculous. They're full of rain and frustration and costumes that suddenly don't fit because someone discovered the Austrian bakery scene. The finished film is this warm, enveloping thing we come back to again and again. We watch it when we need comfort, when we want to feel the ache of a perfect romance, when we want to believe that people can change and families can heal. Maybe that's the heart of it, right there. Nothing brilliant happens without a mess lurking behind the curtains. Every story we fall in love with, every accomplishment we admire, comes tied to screw-ups, setbacks, and unlikely strokes of luck. The Sound of Music is beloved because, under the technicolor surface, it reflects what real lives are made of: chaos, laughter, disaster, and just enough grace to pull something beautiful out of the whole improbable tangle. Those hills, alive with music in the movie, were just as alive with wind, rain, technical glitches, and performers doing their best not to crack up or fall over. And somehow, something timeless and beautiful was born. It's traveled through generations, mothers to daughters, grandkids on laps, families in blankets on rainy Sundays. Every time, the gazebo scene makes us misty, even when we know every word. It invites us to fling open the windows, sing at the top of our lungs, and spin in our socks in the living room, if only for a minute. In all its imperfection, The Sound of Music gives us permission to love our own messes, our ordinary days, and to believe that out of mayhem, magic can happen all over again. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go watch it again. And this time, I'm going to listen very carefully during the gazebo scene for any suspicious sounds coming from the lighting equipment. Take care of yourselves, friends. And remember, even Julie Andrews hit the grass. She always got back up.